what does the death of Lazarus teach us about Jesus? That's what we're going to unpack today in John 11. Well, this is a turning point of the gospel and the last major sign that Jesus performs before heading towards the cross. Hi, this is Jill from the Northwoods talking about the Bible one small step at a time. Today in John 11, we're going to meet Lazarus for the first time. He is only in John's gospel. He lives in Bethany, which is a village just about 2 miles away from Jerusalem, really close to the center of power right there. And they're plotting in Jerusalem to kill Jesus. So this is a dangerous place to be. He has been keeping a distance from Jerusalem lately, but we're going to draw closer and closer to the heart of danger. Bethany means house of affliction or house of figs. A lot of times, Hebrew is made up of three root letters, and these three root letters determine every word in Hebrew. So if you think of nor means light, menorah means lamp, tenor means oven. So this is where Lazarus lives. He lives with his sisters, Mary and Martha. This is going to be different than Mary Magdalene or Mary, his mother. There's a lot of Marys going on there. And they seem to be a well to do family living in this area. And he has opened his home many times to Jesus. But Lazarus is sick. His sisters, Mary and Martha, heard about the, and Mary and Martha, who we've heard about before, send a message to Jesus: Lord, the one you love is sick. The phrase stands out. In John's gospel, the term loved is philia, which is a brotherly affection, a friendship. And interestingly enough, later in the passage, it says, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. The second time it said is agape, which is a deeper, divine, sacrificial love, a total commitment. And so it's a different, we don't have those words quite in English in that same way, but the Greeks add this sort of layer to it. It's sort of like how the Inuit people have many words for snow because they are exposed to snow in different ways than we are here in at least the North Woods. So this is a phenomenon. It makes it richer. Someone brought up the point that a lot of times as the languages that the Bible is written in evolve along with the Bible and time. That Hebrew started out as a very matter of fact language and it grew. But not only that, you got Aramaic and Greek, which are much more expressive. And so these languages are much more capable of sort of explaining these nuances. So now Jesus doesn't rush back to Bethany. In fact, it says he stays 2 more days and he is delaying on purpose. Jesus says that this sickness does not lead to death. And it's for the glory of God that the Son of God should be glorified through it. So the sisters don't make a special request, they simply state the problem. And that tells you something. They trust Jesus to do what he needs to do. They didn't say, quick, run there, go help him, that kind of thing. And sometimes when you, oh gosh, have that kind of faith, you really know the right thing to say, the right timing to say. And he wants them to know, to trust in him. I mean, that's the ultimate faith. But then it says the delay, that Jesus tells the disciples, now let's go back to Judea. And they're concerned. It's dangerous. Last time they were there, the authorities wanted to stone him. Jesus replies, are there not 12 hours in a day? If anyone walks in the day and does not stumble because he has seen the light of the world. This is John, right? John is all light and dark, Son of God. And this imagery, it would have mattered to John. Walking in the light means walking in alignment with God. And if you walk without the light, you stumble. You walk right into trouble. But Jesus tells them that Lazarus has fallen asleep. The disciples take that literally. If he's asleep, he'll recover. And Jesus clarifies it then. Lazarus is dead. So Jesus says something really striking. For your sake, I'm glad I wasn't there so that you may believe. You're going to see something that is going to convince you. And he's going to use that moment not just to be comforting to the family, but to reveal something eternal and something that every one of us is going to go through. So now there's Thomas. Yes, that Thomas, the doubter. We'll see if he really is a doubter. He says, well, let's go so that we may die with him. So we're going to go back to this dangerous area, the place where they're trying to kill you, Jesus. Okay, fine. We'll just all go and die. So people debate, honestly, in this Thomas moment, whether Thomas was being brave, let's go back and die, or pessimistic. And maybe it was a little bit of both, but I love it either way. It was an honest reaction to it. So by the time Jesus arrives, Lazarus has been in the tomb for 4 days. That's important. The Jewish belief was that the soul lingered around for 3 days. But by day four, that's it. You're truly, truly dead. Not mostly dead, but really dead. And Martha hears that Jesus is near and she runs out to meet him. Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. But now I know whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Again, faith, trust. Jesus tells her, your brother will rise again. And she assumes, then goes on to say, well, yeah, in the final resurrection, we all know we're going to rise in the final resurrection. But Jesus takes it even further. I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he dies, shall live. That's the heart of this whole chapter. It's not just about resurrection someday. It is about that Jesus is the resurrection itself. End of story. And Martha responds and says, well, yes, Lord, I believe you're the Christ, the Son of God who's come into the world. So she has the right idea. She knows who Jesus is. That's one of the clear statements of faith that we've heard so far in the gospel. So Martha then runs to get Mary. Mary arrives and falls at the feet of Jesus and says the same thing. Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. She is weeping. Others are weeping too. And now we get the shortest verse in the entire Bible. Jesus wept. And don't rush past that. The word for Mary and the others weeping is loud. This idea of a mournful sobbing in Greek. But Jesus is weeping a different Greek, de Cairo, which I don't speak Greek, so I hope I pronounce that right. It's a quiet grief that tears come from being deeply moved. Why did he cry? Maybe because the grief over death itself, seeing people around Lazarus really heart wrenched, but maybe he felt pain for his friend, the brokenness of the world, the knowledge that his own death was near. And it's probably all of it. But, he was deeply moved by the whole situation. So they led him to the tomb, which is a cave with a stone rolled in front of it. And Jesus says, take away the stone. Martha objects, Lord, I think in the King James, he stinketh. There's going to be an odor. This is going to be bad. And Jesus reminds her, did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? Then he prays out loud, not because God needed to hear it, although God likes prayer, but so the people standing there would hear and believe. Then Jesus cries out, Lazarus, come out. There, Lazarus does, wrapped in burial clothes, alive again. Some say that Jesus hadn't said Lazarus at the beginning of that statement and just said, come out. Every tomb in the world would have opened up at that moment. But Jesus says something very small but very profound right here. Unbind him and let him go. Jesus raises Lazarus, but invites the others to do the unwrapping. And there's a sermon in there somewhere that Jesus brings people to life, but it's the community that helps people walk in freedom again, helps them walk into this new life again. And you would think that the people would be thrilled, everyone would be thrilled that this just happened. But some people go straight to the Pharisees and report what just happened. It's like a sibling going and I'm telling mom, they run to the house. They gather the Sanhedrin, the ruling council, and ask, what are we going to do? This man performs many signs. Now Caiaphas enters, the high priest, and says, it's better that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish. Boy, that's confusing. Now, John tells us something remarkable. Caiaphas, it says, didn't say this in his own accord. It was a prophecy, even though he didn't realize it. He probably meant it politically. Like, we should kill Jesus because it's better that he dies than this whole nation go under. But God meant it eternally in his prophecy. Jesus was the tipping point where sin was going to be paid for so that everybody would be saved from their sin. And then that it said from that day they plotted to kill Jesus. So Jesus leaves the public scene and retreats to a town called Ephraim. Passover is coming. The people are asking, will he come or is he going to stay away? They're wondering, is he coming back to Jerusalem? And the tensions build. The Sanhedrin gave orders, Caiaphas gave orders that if anyone knows where Jesus is, to let them know. And that ends chapter 11. What I'm going to meditate on this week is about how this story of Lazarus is about who Jesus is. It's not just about Lazarus himself, the resurrection, the life, trusting in him, even though he seemed delayed. He knew what this would do to people to see Lazarus on day 4 walk again. You might have thought he was delayed. Mary and Martha might have thought he was delayed, but instead, he was giving a sign. And their grief turned to hope. Their timing turned into a sign. And Caiaphas, he thought he was securing the nation's security. And then think about Caiaphas. He thought he was going to secure the nation's security, but instead, he was giving out the plan that Jesus was going to die for everybody, die for their sins, fulfilling God's purpose in this. This is for the whole world. And he didn't even know it. He was too blind to see what this prophecy was truly about. And what I'm going to pray about is that, first of all, I have that kind of faith of Mary and Martha who approached Jesus in pain, still believing in his power, still believing he's the Son of God, and trust that he will do what God's will be in this particular case. And then the second is a prayer of discernment that sometimes, like Caiaphas, people convince themselves that they're doing something good, that they're doing or a part of God's will, when instead they're really opposing it. And I'll remember that when I'm praying this week. God can take the worst situation and even death and use it for his own glory. And what I'm going to share with others, like Caiaphas, that people think they're right, that they understand God, that they understand what this world is supposed to be, that I don't have to read the Bible. I don't have to look at God's word. I'm just going to do what I know to be right. And oftentimes it leads you to destruction. It leads you to the wrong interpretation of it. God gave Caiaphas a prophecy and he completely mucked it up by not looking at it and not understanding what God's message actually said. We get so prideful about our own thoughts and what our own decisions are that we often mess up the story. All right, everyone, thanks so much. Appreciate you watching, listening, or if you're looking at the website, The Bible in Small Steps, reading about it. This is really great chance for us to study the Bible, go through it slowly. The idea again is that on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, there's a podcast video, and on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, you read along and read the next chapter and meditate and pray and think about it yourself, and then Sundays for church. So I hope that helps. Please remember that you could always email me at jill@startwithsmallsteps.com. And remember this week that small steps in faith lead to big amounts of trust in God, and that we can start that small step right now.